Hi, Julian. How are you?
Hi there, Siddharth. Very well. And how are you doing on your side?
I'm going, eh? Considering with all the load shedding and everything else, it's fine. Weather's been really hot. Don't know how it is from your side, though.
Oh, no, down here in the Cape on the south coast, summer really hasn't been what it used to be. It's been very mild, it's very cool. And so I think it's one of those cooler summers down here in the south for a change. Might be different in Cape Town to my west or up where
Okay.
you are, but here in the Garden Route, it's actually very mild at the moment.
Okay, that's nice. All right. And now, since I did speak about load shedding, I know it's going to be quite a major factor come the election.
Mm.
So let's start with that since I did want your thoughts on it. The very first question regarding the national elections is: do you feel the ANC will win the elections in majority, or do you think they'll have a coalition government?
The days of the majority for the ANC are over at this stage. 30 years into this new South Africa, the ANC had the majority, but this year, this moment where the majority ends. Uh, Generally, ANC have seen the best. How doing all right on your start?
Oh, so sorry there. I couldn't actually hear what you just said because my network was playing gymnastics there. Do you mind just saying what you said at the beginning, if that's okay with you?
Tricky internet connection. The internet is up and down again, it seems. Are you there? I can
Yes,
see you.
yes. Sorry, I couldn't actually hear what your answer was because the network was so bad. I don't know if it was from my side or from both our sides. Hmm. Hmm. Hello?
Okay. How are you doing there, Siddharth?
I'm fine, man. I'm fine, man. Okay, let's just get back to the beginning because I couldn't hear your answer. What were you saying?
Yes. Okay. Despite all of that, what was I saying? I was,
No,
the
you were saying,
ANC.
yeah,
The
yeah, you were
ANC are
saying,
not going to get the majority this time around. I think those years are over now. They've been steadily losing votes over the past 30 years,
yeah,
from a 60% majority to 50-odd% majority. This time round, they'll get between 40 and 50%. So they'll be forced to go into a coalition. They won't have a full majority this time at all. So it's very exciting, very interesting time. As to who they'll go into coalition with, if you're interested to speculate about that, it's unlikely it'll be the DA.
yeah,
The standard is the projection is that the ANC gets, say, 40 to 45% of the vote this time round. The DA might get, say, 20%, which is a little bit less. They're also maybe losing a bit. The EFF, on the other hand, may increase their voter turnout to around same 20%. Now, the ANC is unlikely to go into coalition with any of those two major opposition parties. Their tactic is usually to go with some of the very smaller parties.
yeah,
And go into coalition with a few that have maybe 1%, 2%, or 3% vote. And so they maintain the power, of course, in that way.
Yeah. But then which one do you think they'll do a coalition with? Like, which party do you think they might coalesce with?
It's very difficult to say. According to the IAC, there are about 350 different parties on the ballot for national election this year. Okay, some of them, like the IFP, are only in KZN, of course. They are not really available, or they don't get many votes in the other provinces. So it's hard to say who the because the ANC and the IFP have like a bit of a war going on, especially in KZN. You have political assassinations. Up to 20 or so IFP candidates for small municipal elections have been killed over time. Assassinations, it's quite horrendous, actually. So I think
Yeah.
there's no love between the IFP and the ANC. That really leaves a very small choice. There's other parties in Gauteng up north, for example, that the ANC might go into coalition with. Action SA, for example, COPE is itself a breakaway party from the ANC. And there's a couple of others, even the EFF is a breakaway party. But it's more likely to be some very small parties that are very local, that we only hear about, say, in Gauteng alone or KZN alone. ASA, Action SA, for example.
Okay, my next question to you, that hypothetically, if ANC don't win, do you feel the multi-party charter will run South Africa going forward? If you know what I mean by the multi-party.
The multi-party charter, that was the opposition uniting with some smaller parties. You had the DA, the IFP, Action SA, Freedom Front Plus, and maybe two other very small parties. So that was the coalition that the DA managed to cobble together. Now, they alone only really achieve maybe 35%, 40% in total of the vote. So they alone will probably not be enough. That's according to the current statistics and projections and so on. On the day, we'll see what the actual voter turnout is, because that is a huge deciding factor, the turnout on the day. So this multi-party charter, it will be one or other coalition. Now, whether it's a multi-party charter or this kind of coalition or another kind of coalition, it's going to be cobbled together, a bunch of smaller parties, either with the ANC or with the DA. You certainly won't have the ANC and the EFF getting together in a hurry. You won't have the DA and the EFF getting together in a hurry either. So it depends on those smaller parties, and the jury is still out. The DA, IFP, Freedom Front Plus, Action SA, and so on. Then you have Musi Maimane, who was the previous leader of the DA. He's formed his own party, Build One South Africa, BOSA. They may get involved with the DA in a coalition and then boost that charter. If that charter, multi-party charter, can grow a little bit more, say with Musi Maimane's party added to it, you may get above 50%.
And not only that, I think the DA will have to, humble themselves to try and get a patriotic alliance with him, because even they're an upcoming party as well. So if they can get them in somehow, then I think many parties want patriotic alliance, but the DA seem to have their own issues with them. So I think if they can get them in, then I think it's possible that they can get over the line.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
that's right. The patriotic alliance, it often boils down to the lesser of the two evils. So, or that other popular phrase, "the enemy of my enemy is my friend." So you're right. Parties have to become humble and be willing to be diplomatic and negotiate. Keep the bigger picture in mind and think long term. Set aside any squabbles and factionalism and so on. If they really want to beat the ANC, then this multi-party charter actually has a chance.
Okay. All right. My third question to you is, in an ideal world, which party do you feel deserves to run South Africa and why?
That is possibly the most difficult question. In my subjective opinion, it's very difficult for me to say because, I'm a bit of a radical. I'm a bit of an outsider. I don't favor any of the bigger parties. I'm skeptical about the ANC. They have a very bad track record. The EFF is also a little bit too radical on the left-wing side with certain of their policies. So they don't qualify. The IFP is much too small. It's only in KZN. Although there may be noble and have high ideals and so on, they won't be allowed to or skilled to take the whole party, the whole country, should I say. Freedom Front Plus also, they have 1 or 2% in the whole country. So who does that leave? The DA, you would think, oh, look, I'm in the Western Cape, maybe I'll say DA. However, even the DA is very suspect in my books, because that kind of party is vulnerable to outside influence, to international influence, international pressure. They will toe the line if the World Economic Forum or some other strange outside private non-elected body wants to pull the strings. There are certain hidden hands behind the scenes on the global scale that like to pull the strings on small countries like ourselves, and they may have the DA in their pockets. And so I'm a bit suspect of even the DA. So who do we have? Do we vote for some small radical party at the end of the day, or do we just go with the lesser of the 5 evils, if you want to look at it that way? So I'm too scared to even mention even one party that I think is worthy at this stage.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think the DA, and I'll tell you why, because if they run Cape Town, I would say if I look at Cape Town compared to the rest of the country, it's pretty much different, like being in 2 different parts of the world, man. Like talking cheat. I don't know if I'm like, being fanciful, but I'm always hearing good things about Cape Town. It's very well run.
Yes.
The economy is there, great. So if the DA can do that with Cape Town, I'm sure they do a lot better for Durban. I think Umgeni has been very well run by the DA, and then I think in Joburg is just a mess. So I think so. I'm not trying to influence anyone's opinion, but I would vote for DA, but you're entitled to vote whoever will be watching our chat.
Yes, that's right.
So you can't be. So you can't tell me one party that you feel will deserve. Of course, the way I look at it, no party is perfect. They all have their flaws. But like, if you had to pick one, if I had to literally put a gun to your head, pick one. Who would you pick?
I would, obviously the DA is the major opposition, and the Western Cape is in better shape than the rest of the country, as far as municipal service delivery, the potholes in the roads, the water, sanitation, and so on. The municipality seems to be in a healthier state. So you would think DA, but there are other parties like the Organic Humanity Movement, OHM. The OHM party, never heard of them, exactly. They're a small outsider party, fairly popular here in the Western Cape, in maybe 1 or 2 little municipalities. They're brand new. It's just a bunch of totally independent people. The woman who is heading it up used to work for the DA as part of the team in previous years, campaigning for the DA. But she became disheartened by what she saw internally. In her opinion, she said, it looks like the DA don't actually want to become the majority party. They're not willing to push any further. It's almost as if their agenda is to stay as the opposition, the controlled opposition. But I don't know. I don't know the details. What can I say? At the end of the day, the DA looks like the best horse in a rather poor race. So we just go with them. These smaller parties don't really have a chance. They'll get 1% of the vote at most, 2%. So no one knows about them. There's no chance of them running the country suddenly. Whereas the DA have a decent track record, and therefore we'll rather go with them than total anarchy, of course. Certainly not the ANC this time around.
Okay, my last question to you is, I know I might be repeating myself in this last question, but like, what's your full election prediction? Like, if you had to predict, like, what do you think is going to happen in this election?
We have, like I say, it looks like at least over 350 parties in this election, which sounds a bit extreme. You've got Jacob Zuma's new party, Umkhonto we Sizwe, Musi Maimani's party we mentioned. Then there's Patricia de Lille's got this good party. Even Cope was an offshoot of the ANC. So you've got many people. Even Ace Magashule is going to do his own little party, from what I understand. So it's going to be a coalition. The ANC are going to get, if they're lucky, they'll get 40 to 45%. They'll still be in the majority in that case. They'll be obliged to go with some other smaller parties so that they can at least beat the DA, which will get about 20%, and the EFF, which will grow to also get about 20%. So that means, the ANC 40, DA 20, EFF 20, that's 80. Then we've got 20% left. And those will be the smaller parties. The ANC will continue to run the country, but they will need a kingmaker. And these smaller parties are going to vie to be the kingmakers to help the ANC stay in power. So even if they keep Ramaphosa as president for the next term, they'll put one of these smaller party leaders in as vice president to give them some kind of a gift. This is what we've seen in the smaller municipal elections. For example, even here in the Garden Route area, there's often neck and neck between the ANC and the DA. So you get these small parties that get maybe 1% to 5% of the vote that become the kingmakers. And then what happens is they side with whoever they feel happy with on the day. But they're constantly jumping ship, from the one party to the other party. So what happens is that one seat, just one little seat from some small unknown party sometimes gets that party leader's position into the mayorship. That small unknown party can sometimes end up being the mayor, providing the mayor as a gift. The ANC. Yes, there we go. The ANC says, side with us, we'll have a coalition and we'll make you the mayor. Although if that person got 1% or 2% of the vote. So it doesn't really show a proper election, the desires or will of the people. This is not what the people are voting for, but they're being squeezed into these situations. It's very unhealthy. And this year round is going to be even more dangerous than ever. You're going to have more coalitions, makes it more fragile, and the desperation is going to rise. Service delivery is probably going to fall. The unemployment, corruption, and the crime, who knows where it could go, but it's looking a bit dire. Also, foreign investment. If I can just add a few of these extra things, in closing. For example, international investment is leaving this country so fast. By the year, international investors are seeing the weakness in the political stability of South Africa. And so as the foreign investors get chased away, who else is left? We have our internal problems, not much support. We go to the IMF or the World Bank. We go even more into debt, and it's unsustainable. It's completely unsustainable. So many municipalities are already bankrupt. They owe Eskom alone, the power supplier, billions of rands that they're in debt just to get the electricity. So the state-owned enterprises are collapsing, including Eskom, the rail, transport, and so on, the ports. Who knows what could happen at this stage? The ANC will be in the majority, so we'll probably have them with Ramaphosa as president, and a few other unknown kingmakers in their coalition.
So your basic prediction is it's going to be an ANC coalition government, not an outright majority for ANC, basically.
Yes, that's right.
Fair enough.
And that's how we're going to have to play it.
I've been hearing these rumors, and I don't know if you agree with these possibilities. One rumor is that in the worst case scenario is that if it was ANC being really desperate to partner with someone, especially if they're in the low 40s, they might actually look to the EFF, and if that were to happen, then the DA would step in because people would be scared out of their wits. So I have heard of that possibility of a DA ANC like a unity government, or what they call a national unity government, or in an ideal situation, ANC would probably want to partner up with IFP because they would have a low percentage. But then I don't know, because I've heard these agreements that with the multi-party charter, they can't partner with the ANC now because they had that agreement. So it's going to be a bit of a spicy situation, but I'm hopeful the multi-party charter wins, because I've been looking at the poll. The DA seems to be doing very well in KZN and Joburg. I've heard those provinces are for the taking. So I mean, as long as, and I know this might sound selfish, but as long as the DA and IFP together get Durban, I don't mind. And Joburg, because Joburg really needs to be taken away from the ANC. They've done a really rubbish job. I think y'all will be fine. So I think that's how I look at it. Free State, I can't comment. I think it's ANC stronghold, although I heard it's kind of declining there, but I'm not too sure. But my prediction is, and I know this might sound fanciful, but I think the multi-party charter might win this year. Or if that doesn't happen, I'm hoping at least ICT gets taken by the DA or IFP together, and along with Joburg being taken up by DA and other. That's hopefully what I'm hoping for in the second worst case scenario.
Yes, that's the lesser of the evils. That's what you've just stated there. So let's hope for that. You know, the ANC EFF coalition would be a disaster. I don't think it'll survive even the first month, and they'll collapse. So we'd rather go with the multi-party charter with the DA, IFP, and a few other parties. You know, level-headed, common sense for a long-term thinking coalition.
Yeah, I think that's what the multi-party charter was created for, so that they get most of the stuff sorted out. Because normally what would happen, they would have 2 weeks to sort out a party, and that become the real chaos. Now I think what they did was clever. They did the multi-party charter so that they sort out most of these, issues. So I think it shouldn't be too bad now. That's my theory, though.
So there's hope. There's definitely hope.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think that's pretty much a wrap. Thanks so much for your time,
Sure, my pleasure, Siddharth. Anytime, always happy to chat. Thank you.
Thanks.